What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how to change an axle on an FR-S BRZ or 86. Keep watching. Okay, so here's the tools you're going to need for the job. You're going to need a pry bar, something to punch stuff with, so whether it's a punch or a flathead screwdriver, something similar like that to help you out. A hammer. You're going to want a set of sockets. All you're going to use out of this are the 10, the 12, the 17, and the 19. 19 to take your wheels off, 17 for pretty much everything else except for the brake line and the ABS. You're going to want another 17 here, just a 17 millimeter wrench. You need a ratchet, unless you have a gun like this, then you don't need the ratchet. You need a 32 millimeter socket for the axle nut. You will need a breaker bar for that axle nut as well if you don't have a gun like this. And then if you are using a gun like this, you might want a wobble extension to kind of help you out with some harder to reach areas. But really, that is all you're going to need to do this job. And obviously, to do this job, you're going to need an axle. I got this one from AutoZone. This will run you about $100. You can get it a little bit cheaper on Rock Auto. I think you can get them for like 55 bucks. So that's what I would recommend. Don't get one from the dealer. This should be perfectly fine if you're stock power. I run these on my other cars. I run them on my Civic, so they seem to do just fine. But I'm just going to open this up and show you. It is brand new. And I'm not going to take this out of the bag just yet, but this does have a lifetime warranty, so if anything happens, as long as the boot's not torn, then they will replace it for you. So the first step is to jack up your car.
What a trouble with love is. What a trouble with love is. What a trouble with love is.
Alright, so the first thing that you need to do is take off your wheel. So the first thing that you want to do before you start tearing everything apart is you want to make sure that you can get this nut off. So this is a 32 millimeter. There's a little punch right here, so if you take a flathead screwdriver and hammer it into there, sometimes you can get this to come out a little bit to help this nut turn. My gun's usually just strong enough to get this off as is, so I'm gonna go ahead and just throw my socket on here and try to hammer it off with the gun. So that was able to come loose. Next, what we're gonna do is start disconnecting the small things. So right here you can see there's a brake line connected right here. We want to give this a little bit more movement, so we're going to disconnect this, but we're going to leave the brake line connected to the caliper. And then over here there's an ABS sensor. We don't want to get that to get messed up, so you can either disconnect it back here to give yourself some play. I'm actually just going to disconnect it from up here. This is a 10 millimeter and this is a 12 millimeter, so I'm going to go ahead and disconnect both of those.
Trouble with love is. What a trouble with love is.
Okay, so these are disconnected now. This is the ABS sensor. It just took a little bit of wiggling to get it out, but that's out. This brake line is disconnected right here. That'll give us a little bit more play. Most videos, I know, disconnect this upper control arm here, as well as these two arms down here. This is the trailing arm. Right here, this bolt, and then this bolt's for the control arm. I think that I can get away with just doing these two, so I'm gonna go ahead and give that a shot. If that doesn't work, I'll let you know, and then I'll just undo the upper control arm as well.
What a trouble with love is.
Now that those are out, you just gotta go ahead and take this off the rest of the way and hammer the axle through. So now I should be able to pull this out and up a little bit. There we go. And I should be able to hammer this through the rest of the way.
It's just clicking on this one side.
Yeah. All right, for this next step, you just want to take a pry bar and put it right here in between the axle and the diff and get this thing taken out. There we go. All right, so here's the old axle. Here's the new one, clearly. I'm gonna take some grease and put it on the end here to help this go in. One thing that's good is to try to center this C-clip, at least that's what the instructions say to do, and then put some grease around here just to help this go back in pretty easily. Next, we can just go ahead and guide this thing back in. There we go. That's started. So if you just give that a good shove from this side into the differential there, you can see it's all the way in. You can compare it to the other side just to make sure, but that is all the way in. Now we just gotta go ahead and put this side back in, this other side here. All right, so now we're gonna feed this end back into here. I'm gonna throw some grease on here as well. All right, now that the axle's in, just got to put everything back together in the reverse order. So I'm going to throw this nut on here, but I'm not going to tighten it down just yet. Got to reconnect these down here. And then these two lines that I took off, I don't actually think that you have to take these off if you do it this way, where you don't undo the upper control arm. If you want to undo the upper control arm, then definitely take these off to give you a little bit more slack. But otherwise, just leave them in. It won't hurt anything. And you can just undo these two down here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put this back together. Alright guys, that's the end of this video. If you liked it, if it helped you out, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. Share it if you don't mind. If you want more content, feel free to subscribe to the channel. But for now, thank you for watching. Peace out.